Hi everyone, it's Zandila here. It's been a while, but I just thought I would come back and do a quick one regarding the upcoming elections. On the 29th of May, as most people probably know, South Africans will be going to the voting polls. And I've been reading some stats and just data and some things regarding the voter turnout. Now, voter turnout around the world is down. For example, in South Africa in 1994, there was an 86% voter turnout, whereas with the 2019 national and provincial elections, only 66.1% of registered voters turned up. Now, this is a worldwide problem, but one of the things about voter turnouts at elections is that it's actually a check on the health of democracy and participation within it. Now, the IRR states that it's it's a check on the health of a democracy and non-violent participation in it. Okay, I'll be nitpicking, but these are some of the observations that they've made regarding the voting trends since the 1994 election, and I'll just read through these quickly. The article will be in the description. So the first thing is what I've just pointed out, which is that voter turnout continues to decline, went from 86.87%, whereas the last election saw 66.1% of voter turnout. And in the 2021 LGEs, which are the local government elections, local general elections, there was a 45.86% voter turnout. So this is clearly a worrying decline because it points to a problem. And one of the reasons is the fact that youth are not voting. And they say perhaps this should be our nation's biggest concern, and I agree, in respect of the public's participation. People who are 18 to 20 have the lowest voter turnout of all the age groups in the country. A report commissioned stated that less than 20% of the population aged 18 to 35 registered to vote. So that means that they don't even have the wherewithal and they don't even have the intention of voting. They don't even bother to be involved in the process. And that's obviously a problem because the youth, the young, are the ones who actually uphold all the systems within the country. So the second thing is that there's a correlation between the country's poor state and low election participation. So when you look at the problems within South Africa here, they list state capture, load shedding, corruption riots, looting, and junk status. These events and more of our recent past have coincided consistently with the drop in election participation. I find it very interesting that they don't mention the jobs and the lack thereof and the economic standpoints, but I guess I understand why they wouldn't because, yeah. Then they say that these low voter numbers indicate a clear loss of faith in our democracy, political parties, and the provision of proper service delivery. People will not vote if the dominant idea in their minds is nothing will change or what good is my vote. The numbers show the ever growing need to restore our confidence in the democratic process. I guess so. So, the next thing I want to go into is why voting matters and why vote. First of all, I've taken this from elections. It's the Election Commission of South Africa, the IEC, and they've given some reasons you should vote, and they say it's because you can. You may take your right to vote and all other rights in our constitution for granted, but 25 years ago, most of the people in our country were not allowed to vote. Many of them were arrested and jailed for demanding this most basic human right. Others were tortured and killed because of their sacrifice to there you can vote simply by presenting yourself at a voting station with your ID. And they go on of how that's done. I have a problem with this reasoning. As much as I completely agree that there were people who sacrificed for our right to vote, I have a problem with using it as a coercion tactic to people who have fundamental issues with voting and they are stating what their issues are. So I don't believe that people died for to be allowed to vote. They died, they were arrested, they were jailed because they wanted the choice to vote. And that's what my whole thing is. You have the choice to vote or to not vote. What those people were fighting for, grateful as we are for all their sacrifices, and I will never downplay what they did. I'm so thankful because I am someone who votes. I actually do believe in voting, but I'll get to why at the end. So their sacrifices are something that I am very aware of and cognizant of, and I am thankful for them. But I don't believe that people should be forced to vote just because people sacrificed for that. Because the sacrifice wasn't so that we have to vote, it was a sacrifice so that those who chose to could vote. Secondly, it reads that elections have consequences. You have the power to decide on the quality of life you want for yourself and your community, and even future generations. I completely agree with that and I understand. But the problem with that is the fact that there are a lot of people who've given up on the system, whether for themselves regarding their quality of life or their community. We have an unemployment rate that is reaching the 30s, if I'm not mistaken, if it's not already over. Don't quote me on that, but if you're looking at that and you are telling someone who's unemployed and has no prospects that voting is something that'll get their quality of life when they watch their mother be unemployed, their father be unemployed, their sibling be unemployed, it's not going to matter to someone what the consequences of elections are. The third reason to vote is that not voting is giving up your voice. Elections are decided by the people who go out and vote. If you don't vote, someone else will make the decision for you. If you don't vote, you get stuck with other people's choices, and you can't even complain about it because you let it happen. I disagree with that. You have a right to complain about anything you want to complain about. You have a right to complain about your government. You have a right to complain about anything that affects you. There are other ways in which these things that affect you can manifest themselves. It doesn't just mean that just because you don't pay to play, then you can't participate. I think this is another it's another tactic that I disagree with, that kind of shoves it over your head that you need to do A, B, and C. And yeah, I completely disagree with it, because you're allowed to disagree with something that is happening in your home. There are other ways that you participate within this economy and within this country, and it's part of your community, and you're allowed to complain about your community. Another reason is they say it's your money. You pay taxes, even when you just buy a loaf of bread. But do you know how that money is being spent? Most people don't. This is absolute junk, because it's not like they give us a spreadsheet of what they're spending our money on. So, okay, if they say so. I understand the sentiment behind it, because they're saying voting is your chance to choose how your taxes are spent, such as funding for social services. Completely agree. But in the same vein, you can't say to people that not voting is giving up their voice and they can't complain about things that they let happen. That's a trash breakdown. It's trash reasoning when you then say to those same people that you pay taxes. So if they're paying taxes but they don't vote, is that then saying that they don't have a right to complain about what's done with their tax money, even if it's a loaf of bread? The fifth reason they state is democracy needs you. Democracy only works if people participate. I agree with that. That sounds obvious, but unless people actively participate in the process, democracy doesn't work. It takes constant renewal amongst citizens to make democracy flourish, which is great reasoning. I completely get it, and I completely agree with it, as I stated. The problem that I foresee, or I view with it, is the fact that if you have people who are participating year after year after year and nothing changes for them, no matter how involved they are in the system, it kind of becomes moot to them if you're telling them that unless they actively participate in the process, the process won't work. It's already not working and they are actively participating. So, for example, think of someone who is a Pan-Africanist Congress voter. As a Pan-Africanist myself, but I do not vote for the PAC. And besides the fact that it's a complete mess, it's because I'm not entirely clear on their methods and how they're planning to do things. But someone who does vote for them isn't seeing that particular change. So for them, quote unquote, democracy isn't working. So it's a very moot point to make to someone who is actually involved in the system but still sees it not working. They also state here that voting is an opportunity for change. If you're thinking that right now you've got better things to do with your time and you'll vote next time, think again. 5 years is a long time to be stuck with something that you don't want, or that doesn't work. Just imagine what it would be like to be stuck with the same cell phone for 5 years, especially one with limited features. I don't think that makes sense in South Africa. And finally, our generation knows best. Technology and connectivity means that our generation is probably the best informed and equipped to vote in South Africa's history. Social media and the internet has given us access to information which previous generations of voters didn't have. You are becoming the experts ahead of your parents and grandparents. Use that expertise to make our country head in the right direction. Um, okay. Okay. I'll accept it. Okay, so as an African, there's a lot of sentiment by my people who share similar ideology to me, which is saying that they don't vote and they refuse to vote because nothing changes. And as Pan Africanists, nothing is happening that warrants our vote. I completely understand that. Here's my reasoning for voting. Think of all that I've just read regarding why we should vote and the things I agree with and disagree with. I have one reason and one reason only for voting. First off, as a Pan-Africanist, one of the things that I think is very imperative, it is very imperative that we do not do, is allow any government or any social entity that affects our lives to believe that we are not engaged and plugged in. I am completely aware of what is happening in South Africa. I'm not saying go vote because I romanticize voting. I actually believe that as Pan Africanists, we should be out of the voting block by now, but not in the sense that I'm saying that we shouldn't be voting. I fully believe that we should be engaged. I fully believe that we should be plugged in, even if you are going in there to spoil your ballot, because I sincerely believe that we need to know that these people can't do anything that affects our lives in the dark. So they can't sit behind closed doors and make decisions on our lives without us being engaged. So, in order for them to understand and to know that we know what they are doing, we are plugged in, we are engaged. We may not be a force to be reckoned with in the sense that we are able to take power, but we are engaged, we are plugged in, we know what is going on. And secondly, it allows us to form a base that political parties need to appeal to. So, in order to illustrate this, we can use the example of the 2019 national elections as an example. So, the registered population in 2019 was 26,756,649. The voter turnout, as stated previously, was 66.05%, which meant that there were 17,672,851 people who actually came to vote. Of those, 235,472 were spoiled. Now, if you're a political party who's looking to make your way into having a seat within parliament, that's one of the biggest groups that you try to target. Now, obviously, this is done on a micro level, which means that it's done intracommunally. So you go into communities and you find out, especially when you find out where the spoiled votes are mainly coming from, or whatever, but it doesn't matter. What your job is to do as a public representative looking to be in parliament is to find out why people are spoiling votes. Is it because people don't know how they're supposed to vote? Is it because they're unclear? Or, which is something I believe was probably the most prevalent reasoning, was because people see all the political parties, they hear everything that the political parties are saying, but there's no one party which they feel represents them. Now, as a Pan-Africanist, that's where I stand currently. I know there are political parties which state that they care about my well-being and my vote, but there are certain issues that I have with the current political parties which are speaking to my interests. And a lot of it also has to do with the reason I have started this channel, which is ideology. My ideology as a Pan-Africanist is very important to me. And I'm not saying I have all the answers or that there's no political party which I feel has the answers. As I said, I am a voter. I believe in voting. I believe in my voting, not because I think that it's going to be the thing that saves us, but because I believe it's one of the things that we can do as Pan-Africanists to at least ensure that they know that we are there, we are engaged, we are watching, and we are unhappy with what they're doing. So the ANC got 10 million votes, which was 57.5% of the support. The DA came second with 3.6 million votes, which was 20.77% of the support. And then the EFF came in with 10.8% of the support, which was 1.8 million votes from the people who turned out to vote. And then the rest of the support was distributed amongst the remaining parties. I'm not sure how many there were on the ballot, but the remaining votes were distributed amongst those parties. Now, what any party would do is to look at those people who didn't vote for them and specifically didn't vote for anyone, and work to find out what their interests are and cater to their interests. Now, if Pan-Africanists were within a voting bloc, which is a number of people who have the same interests, who have the same ideologies, you don't need to agree on everything, but the fundamentals, you agree on the main fundamentals. Those are the people who should be targeted by those political parties in order to turn their votes, their spoiled votes, into votes for a specific party. 235,000 might not seem like a lot in the grand scheme of things, but it does when you're looking at the fact that it translates into seats in parliament. And the more you keep aiming for the people who don't have a political home, and even get the people who are within other parties who are voting because they think they don't have any options, all it can do is create a more robust democracy that caters to your needs as an African. And that's why I believe in voting. I don't think that it's going to change the world. I don't think that all my dreams are going to come true. But I don't vote based on who I like. I vote based on who makes sense to me in regards to my interest at that point. And as much as I think it would be great to sit back and say, well, nothing changes, nothing, it's like my not voting or voting is not going to do anything, I think we shoot ourselves in the foot when we do something like that, because it allows those who are in power to think that they can just carry on doing what they do without us having any input and without us having any say in the matter, because we're sitting home when it's election time, when it's voting time. So do I feel like you have to vote? No. But I do think it's more in our best interest to be involved and to be engaged, even while we are watching BS go on. Because I think at the end of the day, it helps them to know that we are still here. We aren't giving up. We aren't letting them do what they want to do in the dark. So I'm hoping I haven't been all over the place on this one. And if there's anything I need to provide clarity on, please feel free to ask in the comments. I will link the articles I briefly referenced. And I hope everybody is keeping well. Please go out to vote. All three of you listening, please. I hope everybody does go out to vote. I really think the worst thing we can do is lessen what little power we do hold in this country. I think that's the biggest mistake we could make. If we don't get involved, it is very possible for things to keep getting, for us to compromise what little power we do have, when we should be building up on what little power we do have. But anyway, let me know what you think. Thank you so much for watching the video if you've gotten this far. And please remember to like, share, subscribe, comment if you feel you're of the notion. And thank you so much, everybody. I hope you keep well. Bye.